Till 12:30, if that's okay, Leah, to get started.
Okay.
Okay, Leah, we're just about to start. I just wanted to confirm with you that you've already started the recording for the session. Is that correct?
I have.
Okay, perfect. Wonderful. Thank you so much. So hello, everyone, and welcome to Nature in the City, Place-Based Education Through Citizen Science. My name is Lindsay Lunau, and I'm an environmental educator with the City of Calgary, and I will be moderating your session today. I'm moderating the session because we have a very close partnership with the Alberta Council for Environmental Education, and I'm the city's main representative within that partnership. But I'm really lucky to be joined today by two really wonderful presenters, Vanessa Bellin from the Canadian Parks and Wilderness Society, also known, of course, as CPAWS. Hi, Vanessa. And Jacqueline Oriold, who's also from the City of Calgary. She's working within our transportation planning department. Hi, Jacqueline. So please note that throughout our presentation today, we are going to be sharing a lot of very useful resources that you can use with your students. Don't worry about like taking notes or writing down links. We are going to be sharing a copy of the presentation with you afterwards. So Leah or myself will post a link into the chat at the end. You just need to go there and enter name and email address, and ACE will send over a full copy of the presentation with all the active links, as well as any other resources that are mentioned during our presentation. Also, please note that the session is being recorded, as with all of the sessions being offered through this environmental symposium over the 2 days. And all those recordings, if you missed another session, or we heard there might have been some problems this morning, those will be available through the Alberta Council for Environmental Education's website. And finally, I just want to note that we are going to be pausing to answer questions throughout the presentation. So feel free to pop those in the chat. I'll be monitoring it, and I will also be monitoring it and being able to respond. I do see the first question. I'll put the link right in there for you if you do have to leave early. So this workshop today is part of our 2-day environmental symposium called Hand in Hand, Working Together Towards a Sustainable Calgary. And I'm so excited because this symposium actually represents a collaboration between the City of Calgary, the Environmental Council for the Alberta Council for Environmental Education, and a lot of different representatives from the city's environmental education community, like Vanessa from CPAWS. So the symposium itself consists of 12 exciting sessions that are covering a wide range of topics. So it's not too late to register for some of our other sessions. I'll be moderating another one this afternoon and 2 tomorrow. They'll be very exciting. So to better meet teaching needs, we have divided our sessions between an elementary and a secondary stream. So we want to be specific that this workshop is designed for K to 6 teachers. So if you are teaching older students, you're certainly welcome to stay, but you also might want to check out our parallel workshop, which will be held tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Biodiversity in the City. And as noted earlier, of course, all those sessions are being recorded, so they'll be made available through the ACE website. If you haven't heard of the Alberta Council of Environmental Education, they're a small nonprofit organization whose mission is to advance environmental education for Alberta's K-12 students. And their vision is that Alberta students are environmentally literate and equipped with the knowledge and skills to create a sustainable future. I've had the pleasure of working with ACE for over 15 years now, and I can say they're a really amazing organization. Here's our outline for today's session. So we're going to start off with Vanessa and give her the bulk of the time today to introduce the concept of nature in the city and demonstrate 3 citizen science apps that you can use with your students. Then Jacqueline Oriold will take over and will show you how you can engage your students in a very cool city project, the city's Explore Your Street Citizen Science Project. And then I'll pass it back to Vanessa to provide some final reflections on nature. And then I'll be back to wrap up the session. There will be, of course, like I said, opportunities for Q&A throughout. We also want to acknowledge that Calgary is located on Treaty 7 territory, which is a traditional meeting grounds, gathering place, and traveling route of the Blackfoot Nations, including the Siksika, Piikani, Kainai, as well as the Tsuut'ina and Stoney Nakoda First Nations and Métis Region Number 3. We further acknowledge that the long history of Indigenous people is inextricably tied to this land, and that a unique relationship exists between Indigenous peoples and the natural world. This relationship, which is based above all on harmony with Mother Earth, has allowed the original inhabitants of these lands to survive and thrive for thousands of years prior to the arrival of the first Europeans. As the Truth and Reconciliation Commission has recognized, reconciliation will never occur unless we're able to reconcile with the earth. So today we honor and acknowledge the wonderful knowledge keepers, scientists, artists, youth, and teachers like yourselves who seek to move us towards reconciliation. And with that, I might get emotional. I was doing a practice yesterday. I got emotional on this slide. I also really want to recognize the other reality that is facing teachers this year with COVID and the many challenges and constraints that teachers like you have to deal with because of it. So we are mindful that you're dealing with a lot at the moment, and we express our deepest and most heartfelt gratitude for your dedication to keeping our students engaged and learning. You are true heroes, and we're so happy to be here with you to support you in the important work that you do. So I made it through that okay. We are excited to meet you. So before I pass it over to our first presenter, I'd like to get a sense of who's with us in the room. So if you wouldn't mind introducing yourselves in the chat, just let us know your name if you're not logged on as yourself, which school you're with, and the subjects that you teach. And with that, I'd like to invite Vanessa to share your presentation, please, and turn on your microphone. I'll stop sharing, Vanessa.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that introduction, Lindsay. I'll just wait a few moments while Leah gives me hosting privileges, and then we can get started. I'm going to read in the chat. Ooh, there's a ton of people. Lots of people from kindergarten. That's pretty cool.
Oh, so sorry, Vanessa, you're not able to share your screen unless you're the host?
I just got sharing privileges, so all
Perfect.
is well.
Wonderful.
We should be currently sharing. All right, everybody. Thank you again so much for having me. My name is Vanessa again from CPAWS. I'd like to note that there's a lot of information that we will be imparting on you today. And if you aren't taking notes and you want more information, there is a PowerPoint PDF resource that will be available for you to download at the end of this session. In the PowerPoint slides, a lot of the images that I'll be sharing will have links to further resources if you want to know more. So just so you know, you can download the resource PDF after today. So today we're going to be learning about what citizen science is and the benefits. We're going to understand a little bit about how citizen science can help us foster a sense of place and connect us to nature, gain an understanding of different citizen science applications that you guys can use in elementary school, as well as learn more about how people can experience their neighborhood street with the City of Calgary and Jacqueline. There we go. So in the chat, I would love you guys to let me know, what does nature mean to you? So what are places and what are activities that help you connect with nature? And what does this connection mean to you? Which means, like, how does it make you feel? For instance, for me, I connect to nature when I walk my dog through the ravine by my house here in Silver Springs. I walk it towards the Tuscany Ravine. And also I connect with nature out in the mountains and the foothills by hiking and paddling or canoeing. And this connection means a lot to me because it helps to ground me and calm me and recharge me. So I would love for you guys in the chat to let me know where you guys connect to nature and what activities you guys do to connect yourselves to nature. So I see Stephanie says walking in the wooded area. Jason said connecting with family and friends on walks and hikes in Calgary and Kananaskis. Those are all great examples. Keep them coming. Oops. All right. So nature can mean various things to various people. To us, it may mean an escape from everyday life and a chance to recharge. But yet to others, it may be a scary place full of bugs, bears, and things that can make kids dirty or even kill them. When we start working with children in nature, it's really important to meet them where they are. Through my work with CPAWS, I have taken all types of youth outdoors. Sometimes all they want to do is run and climb trees. And then other times, everyone's afraid to sit in the grass or even hug a tree. So it's important when we're attempting to connect kids to nature and place to understand what their association and their comfort with nature is. However, when we are able to get kids connected with nature and ourselves, we can all agree that it can be an awe-inspiring experience, sparking curiosity and building a love of the outdoors, which is really such a huge part of Alberta identity, but also Canadian identity. When we think of nature, many of us conjure up images of like mountain ranges, sandy beaches, large old growth forests. However, nature and our connection to nature doesn't have to stem from idealized, untouched, remote landscapes. We can find value in the nature living in our own backyards. So in the chat, I want you guys to let me know, what does nature look like by your school? Now, there are going to be a lot of different answers because there's a lot of different degrees of access to nature in Calgary. Whether you live downtown or by the river, whether you spend your time in the parks or using community gardens, perhaps your school has an amazing naturalization area like pictured here on the left in Altadore in the Calgary Southwest. Or maybe you work at Forest Lawn High School in the inner city and there's really just cement and really low grass. But regardless of how ideal the nature in your schoolyard and your community is, there is always ways and opportunities to connect. Although we may not have the resources right now or the time right now to take a field trip to the mountains and the foothills, we can still create impactful nature connections and learning locally. Teaching children through connecting them to their local environment is called place-based education. One way we can facilitate place-based education and nature connection at like the same time, citizen science. That was like my big hurrah. Introducing citizen science. Okay, but what is citizen science? Some of us may not know. So I would actually love to hear how familiar everybody here is with citizen science. In the chat, let me know, are you like an expert, super into it? I know everything about citizen science. Are you a dabbler? Maybe you've done it a couple times. Are you a beginner? You've just like downloaded it onto your phone and you're kind of wondering about it. Or are you a complete novice and you're like, I don't know what this citizen science thing is, but I'm interested to learn more. Awesome. Stephanie wants to learn more. Lots of novices. Noob. I like the word noob. That's funny. Jason's not sure. Okay, cool. Well, let me tell you what citizen science is. If I can work this thing. Darn computers. Okay, what is citizen science? So citizen science is when scientists create research projects that they need help with. So they asked everyday citizens to help solve these research questions through collecting data. So people around the world help to collect data through photos, observations, and stuff like that. And then they send it to the scientists through these projects. This data is then used to increase general scientific knowledge and answer the research project's questions. Because there are fewer scientists than there are citizens, having citizens collect data allows scientists to focus on researching and creating programs to, for instance, conserve ecosystems. The more information scientists have, the better equipped they are to keep our environments healthy and thriving. The research findings influence decision makers and policymakers in governments and corporations. Species at risk have been protected through citizen science. Habitats at risk have been protected through citizen science. So the information we collect and your students collect does make a difference in real world. But citizen science is not new. Nay. Citizen science has been going on for hundreds, thousands of years. This image is an image of a winter count. This specific winter count is from the Piikani people of the Blackfoot Confederacy. It's a winter count. Winter counts are pictorial calendars or histories on animal hides on which First Nations recorded major events from every year. So one image represents one winter or like 1 year. Examples of events that can be seen on various winter counts include the arrival of guns, wagons, smallpox epidemics, and the signing of treaties. This specific winter count was interpreted by the Piikani elder Bullplume with the assistance of missionary William Haynes. In 1912, they began to uncover the important information of this count. They uncovered that 5 years into the count, it tells of berries staying on the trees all winter. This winter count also tells of years when there was hail and thunder in the winter. I think actually we got hail in this winter, now I'm thinking about it. This winter count also tells about years that deer and buffalo got stuck in deep snow. These cycles are very important because they give a look into the past climate patterns in Alberta. Such information is used even today to understand the climate cycles in our territory, to better inform our understanding of current human-induced climate change, which is super, super cool. So now we're going to get in a little bit more, some nitty gritty. What are examples of citizen science projects that you can use in elementary school in your classroom? There's a whole bunch, actually. We're only going to highlight a few, though. We're going to highlight eBird, iNaturalist, and Calgary Captured from this list. If you'd like to explore the other applications more, feel free to see the PowerPoint resource PDF after the program. There are links to the images in this slide to learn more. It's also important to know for teachers when you're getting into citizen science that while applications may allow students to create an account, while in school, teachers should create a classroom account and be the only one submitting data. This is because when you collect data together as a group, you're considered one entry. So please do not have all your groups and students submit separately. This also ensures that everything you are submitting has been properly identified and verified by the group. Because remember, this is real science going to real citizens, so we got to have real accurate data. Teachers should always fact check. I've worked with groups in the past where a kid created his own account and then he saw like this super rare bird, and it turns out, unfortunately, that he just uploaded a picture from Google Images. So we had to delete that one. Citizen science is an amazing tool because it can be as short or as long as you like. Personally, I prefer to extend the learning through creating learning projects. However, you can have citizen science as only like a few lessons. And I'll give you an example of some citizen science applications, what they are, what grades they're good for, and what curriculum links I personally see as being really outstanding in the next couple slides. So the first one we're going to be exploring is iNaturalist and Seek by iNaturalist. This is like a 2-for-1. So iNaturalist is a global citizen science application that's main goal is to connect people to nature and take collected data and inform scientific discovery, policymakers, and the general public. Participants can utilize the mobile app and the online website to input photos of species and receive assistance identifying them with experts, because experts will actually go in and be like, oh, you saw a coyote. Well, let me look at that picture of the coyote you uploaded. Actually, that's a dog. That's not a coyote. Stuff like that. Then there's also Seek by iNaturalist. So Seek by iNaturalist is very similar, but it's actually way better for really young kids. So if you're in like kindergarten or grade 1 or grade 2, Seek by iNaturalist would be a great option because it allows you to take your picture, camera, the application, tablet, whatever it is, take a picture of something, and it gives you a whole bunch of examples of what that plant or animal might be. And even if you select it, it will not submit that sighting to iNaturalist automatically. So it'll let you create this like cache of images for your students that won't actually go to citizen science yet in case the identification is wrong. So Seek by iNaturalist is a great app for younger kids, iNaturalist for like grade 3+, I would say. Yeah, so grade 3+ for the iNaturalist, and then youngers are for Seek. And if you want to bring it into your classroom, there are some great fits. So grade 3, social studies, global citizenship. The question, what are some environmental concerns that communities in Canada around the world share? End quote. So you can explore the iNaturalist website, which is amazing. It's so good. As a group or individually, because I'm sure a lot of your kids have their own computers now due to COVID. My son does at least. And then you can identify communities around the world that are actually contributing to iNaturalist. And why? Because all of these communities around the world share a similar issue, share a similar environmental concern, which is they're seeing species decline, they're seeing climate change, they're seeing habitat destruction, and more. So that's a really great social studies connection. As well for grade 2 science curriculum, you could use iNaturalist to teach about small crawling and flying animals. You can explore what types of animals live within your schoolyard through a bio blitz maybe. Then you could document these animals, identify them, and log the data as a group. And if you wanted to extend the learning, you could always go onto the Explore website feature on iNaturalist and see what other types of animals other citizen scientists have seen in your neighborhood, because you can like zoom in and you can filter what you see by animals and by location. It is super cool. And last, but definitely not least, grade 5 wetlands ecosystem. So my son is actually learning wetlands ecosystems this year because he's in grade 5. And I took him on this and he was pretty stoked. He went on to the Explore option on iNaturalist and we researched a local wetland that is near our house. And we also saw all of the different species that had been seen there previously. Then he created a hypothesis. He was like, okay, so we're gonna go visit the wetland tomorrow. Based on all the observations that I've seen online, I'm expecting to see this type of plant, this type of animal, and we created this like list of animals that we might see based on when they were seen online and like all that kind of stuff. And then we went to the wetland and we did like a whole field trip and we identified the species, and he was able to prove or disprove his hypothesis. It's important to note that my son was at home during this. I'm not like a homeschool teacher. He's now back at school safely with his way better qualified teachers. Thank you guys so much for teaching my son. Yeah, so that's iNaturalist. Those are 3 great examples. Next is eBird. eBird's amazing also. It's a citizen science project, a global one that specifically looks at obstacles birds are facing in the wake of recent mass extinctions and population declines. In the recent news, there was sightings of hundreds of birds falling from the sky as a result of they're just falling out of the sky due to exhaustion from their migration route, reduced habitat and reduced availability of food, and changing weather patterns are having a huge impact on our flying friends. And eBird is one great way that you can help them out. It's a great all year long application that I would say would be good for grades 2 to 3. Grade 2 would need assistance if they were navigating the website, But if they were just outside trying to like identify birds and stuff like that, if they had a teacher or an EA with them, this would be a home run and super fun. Some ways that you can bring it into the classroom: grade 3, science, animal life cycles, great connection there. You could also do social studies in grade 3, connecting to the world. That's a great unit. If you wanted to teach about animal life cycles, birds have a simple life cycle, but you could expand that beyond birds to talk about their prey, which is insects, many of which go through metamorphosis, which is a complex life cycle. Kids could study a focused bird, go out into the schoolyard or community, try and see if they can find their focused bird, and then log it into eBird. As well, grade 2, science curriculum, small crawling and flying animals. You can explore what types of birds live and transit in your schoolyard, go for a bird walk, identify some, and then submit your sightings. Perhaps to extend the learning, you could also explore the website where you can look at the birds seen in your local area. You can explore focus bird species and create like a whole life cycle species information card. That would be like a cool craft project. And last but not least, grade 6. Let's not forget grade 6 teachers. There's the science unit flight and trees and forests, which have really strong connections to birds. You can incorporate eBird into those units as well. I would also like to mention, honorable mention, Merlin Bird ID mobile application. It is a great beginner bird ID app that is free, and I highly recommend, if you're interested in birds, to download it. It has leveled up my bird ID a whole bunch. This is by far my favorite citizen science application. I use it in my work and also in my personal life. And one of the reasons I think teachers, all you folks, would really like this is because it has teacher resources. And it is an American company, but a lot of what they're talking about is very relevant to Canadian teachers as well. And these resources are linked in this slide. So check out the resource PDF if you want a direct link to the teacher resources that are provided by the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. Yeah, that's it. It's a lot of talking. We're almost done. We're almost at the Q&A. But before Q&A, we need to go and actually do some citizen science with a local example, Calgary Captured. Now, this is run with a whole bunch of different partners. The City of Calgary is in there, Mistaki Institute is in there, Friends of Fish Creek Park are in there, and it's pretty much a program aiming to increase the knowledge of what kind of urban wildlife even lives in Canada and where, or not Canada, Calgary, and where do they live? And based on this information, the City of Calgary is going to switch, change, alter their development and management decisions. So this is an amazing example of a local citizen science project that is the data is being used to change the way our city works and looks. Super, super cool. Now, I would say it's pretty easy. It's a desktop application only, so it's not mobile. You wouldn't go out. It's something you'd actually do at a desk with a laptop. Pretty simple steps, minimal reading. So I'm going to say grades 2+. I would push it to grade 1. You could even do it maybe as a group in kindergarten. That would be a cool idea as well, because I saw we had some kindergarten teachers in here. But for curriculum, really, this curriculum is best for junior high because they have a lot of large mammals that they take pictures of. And that really connects strongly with interactions in ecosystems in grade 7, and then biological diversity in grade 9. But because this is so simple and it's super fun, and I've talked a lot, I am actually going to get us to open up Calgary Captured and do a couple citizen science submissions as a group. And I'm going to make it so you can't see all my fancy stuff. There we go. And I'm going to open up the chat so I can kind of see what you guys are saying, because I had it closed for a while. Got some really great people putting in the chat, lots of awesome resources. Super stoked. Okay, so when you come up to Calgary Captured, you don't have to create an account. which works really well with a lot of FOIP issues because you don't have to create an account to do submissions, which is awesome. It'll come up and it'll tell you a little bit about, you know, what it is, how they take pictures of animals with their motion censored cameras, give you a little bit of information on if you find it difficult to identify a species, and, you know, extending of learning and all this kind of fun stuff. There's lots of really funny pictures that they get out of this. So the way it works is you get an image, and then on the right side here, and we'll see if I can zoom in, you get a list of all of these animals that it could be. And if nothing's there, you kind of go with, there's nothing there. So for this animal, what do you guys think it is? In the chat, I want you guys to let me know. Obviously, it's a type of deer, but what type of deer do you guys think it is? This is a really hard one. I'm getting 2 mule deers. That's a pretty good guess. Most of the deer in the city, I would say, would be mule deer. So I'm going to go with that. So we're going to click on mule deer. And when you first click on it, it gives you a really great kind of description of that animal if you're not familiar. And it also gives you a lot of different images in different seasons and times of day and angles of that animal. It also tells you, you know, maybe it's an elk actually, or a moose or a white-tailed deer. So what you have to do is put how many individuals there are and if any of them are babies. So there's only one and there ain't no babies. So let's identify it. It asks you to confirm. Bam, your first citizen science entry. Ooh, looks like we got another one. What do you guys think this is? Let me know in the chat. I'm going with mule deer again. That's what Aaliyah says, and I'm going to agree with her. Unless somebody else has a really good example of why it's not a mule deer, but I think it is. So we're going to go with one, and it's not a baby because it doesn't have those spots on it. Now there's usually some pretty fun ones that come up. Ooh, and sometimes there's ones that have nothing at all in them. So unless somebody can show me an animal here, I'm going to say there's nothing here. Done. Moving on. Ooh, these ones, this is a very unusual image, but these ones almost look, I'm going to go with their mule deer because mule deer have a black patch on the bottom of their tail, and these guys look like they have a black patch. So we're going to go 2, 1, none for the young. Done. I really want to get you guys a fun one. Ooh, this is kind of a fun one. What do you guys think that is? Is it a turkey? Magpie. Yeah, very good. Let's see if there's a magpie on our list over here. And it's all in alphabetical order, which is just so smart of them. Maybe it's just birds. Looks like we don't have magpie as an option, but we do have birds. How many? There's only one. And there's no babies that we can tell. Identify. And done. All right, so we're gonna stop it there because I could go on forever. It is so much fun. Sometimes you get really good ones like coyotes. Once I got a fox, and when you get those, it's perfect. So that is Calgary Captured. We are all officially, you know, like amateur citizen scientists, which is super cool. And this activity, although there's not a lot of strong curriculum connections, this is a great introductory activity or lesson for kids when you're teaching them about citizen science. So if you're like, hey, we're going to do this awesome citizen science thing, this is what citizen science is, why don't we all go on our computers right now and play around with the citizen science application from Calgary? And then you could maybe take it on, do eBird, take it on, do iNaturalist further on after that lesson. All right, and now most of what citizen science is outside the classroom when you're out doing fun things. So through CPAWS, I've created the YYC's Young Citizen Science program that has provided me a lot of background information on how to best take kids outside to do citizen science. Some of the helpful materials that I have curated in my program are listed here. Now, you do not need all of these items, But there are a couple items that I personally think you could really use if you wanted to go out and do citizen science like tomorrow with your kids. One would be ID guidebooks. Now, you probably don't own these at home. You probably don't own them at school, and that's okay. If you feel comfortable, the City of Calgary's public library has hundreds of bird ID books, animals, insects, and they have a really strict and thorough COVID policy. So if you take them out, I think you can take them out for like 3 weeks. They're a great resource for your classroom if you feel comfortable with that, or if you want to do this after the whole COVID pandemic has moved on. Observational worksheets or nature journals are very important to log questions that come up, sightings that they see, sketches that they want to do, as well if you have clipboards to write with the journals, that would be really helpful as well. Everything else on here is really optional, but if you're interested in accessing these materials, we have a rental kit at CPAWS that provides you with everything here except for cameras and clipboards. But we have 30 sets of binoculars, we have 6 tablets, all with the citizen science applications downloaded onto them with already logged into them with our account. So it's a really easy pick up and go kind of rental kit. Now, those are the materials you could use. So when you go outside, depending on what you're looking for, you're going to want to do different things. If you're looking for bugs because you're in kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, I would recommend a 1 meter by 1 meter BioBlitz area. So you could use like rope, tape, a hula hoop to set off these designated areas, have kids go out and look for stuff, take pictures of them, draw pictures, and try and identify them. And then every 15 minutes or so, you can always switch the stations and have kids rotate to different hula hoop areas that could be placed, you know, one's under a tree, one's on the gravel, one's by a rock, you know, that kind of thing. But if you're interested in doing, you know, looking for birds, looking for urban wildlife, you might want to check out a community walk or a schoolyard walk. These are awesome and really, really great. Now, when you do these walks, I've noticed, in my personal opinion, that it's easier to manage when you separate the groups into smaller groups. I'm sure you guys know this as well. So the way we do it, and the way that I would recommend you guys do it as well, is you separate the kids into groups of 3 or 5, and then each person within the group gets a role while they're on the community walk. One person is the scribe, so they have the paper, they're writing down inquiry questions, sketching things, or logging the birds that they're seeing. Another person has the ID guide book, so they're able to flip through the pages and kind of compare the animal or the footprint that they're seeing to what's in the book to identify it. The third person, if you have tablets available to you, can be using online ID apps or going and using the citizen science application. And then the last person, if you have binoculars available, can actually just be looking and seeing what can be seen. Now, it can kind of be boring if they're stuck in each of these roles for the whole time. So every 15 minutes or so, we usually switch within our program. And then the scribe becomes the tech and the observer becomes the ID book, and all the materials shift around. And with COVID, you'd probably have to sanitize materials in between, or perhaps you go out for shorter periods of time and then you just switch roles every time you go out. But that's one way that we found, and I have found personally in my experience, to keep engagement high throughout a community or school walk. As well, also having like teachers, parent volunteers, EAs designated to each group really helps to keep them focused as well.
Sorry, Vanessa, you have 30 seconds.
Okay, no worries. And I think it's done. We're on to our questions.
Well, that's perfect. I've asked if anyone wants to throw any questions in the chat, but I haven't seen any come up so far. I do want to share, one of our teachers shared here that the Cornell Ornithology website offers a free live webcam for birds, which is really great to use with students. And Jacqueline also noted the City of Calgary method of clipboards, which is sturdy cardboard with a bull clip. That's what we use all over the city. Well, not officially on construction sites, but in the office environment. So Vanessa, I think I'll just ask you if there's questions that come up in chat, if you could address them directly there, and I'll ask you to stop sharing your screen and pass it over to Jacqueline.
I will keep sharing. Jacqueline's just going to let me move her slides over.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's so wonderful. Thank you so much. So then without further ado, over to Jacqueline.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes, instead of changing who owns the slides, it's just easier if I have Vanessa do it. All right, so hi everybody. My name is Jacqueline Orield, and I work on the Livable Streets team at the City of Calgary as a transportation education specialist. My team is made up of planners, engineers, and education professionals, and we focus on making our streets and sidewalks easier and more comfortable for people of all ages and abilities, whether you're walking, wheeling, taking transit, or driving. So we work on a variety of projects like putting in new sidewalks, pathways, and places for people to wheel. So like riding bikes, skateboards, scooters, that kind of thing. My team also works with communities to help make streets more comfortable. So by making changes to the way that the road works so that people can move together safely no matter what mode they're moving in. So examples of some of the projects and the programs that we do include the Active and Safe Routes to School program. So this focuses on increasing the number of students who are using active travel to get to and from school, even just a portion of the way. Temporary traffic calming installations and adaptive sidewalks. An adaptive sidewalk is when you'd see a portion of maybe the road where there isn't actually a sidewalk, where it's kind of been portioned off. We saw a lot of those during COVID times where they were kind of blocked off by cones to give more spaces for pedestrians to move on the street. We do lots of neighborhood streets projects that are sort of unique to each community. And we also run pilot projects. So an example of one that just concluded that you might be familiar with is the shared electric scooter pilot, which has now just passed at council and is going to become a permanent program in 2021. So next slide, please, Vanessa. With part of our theme today, focusing on citizen science and fostering a sense of place, this connects to my work and the work that my team does through the Explore Your Streets survey. So this is a citizen science portal collecting data about what it feels like to move around on your neighborhood street or that of your school. This is important to us because when we learn about how people feel about a space and how they move through that space, it can help us to decide from the city side how to make improvements. So this survey is targeted specifically at a student or youth perspective because we know that traditionally they're a little underrepresented when it comes to engagement at the City of Calgary. Student voices are super important and they provide valuable insights that are often missed in the traditional ways of soliciting, the traditional ways that the city solicits public input. So from the answers to this survey, we have the ability to map individual themes or questions that can inform conversations or future projects or programs. And by looking at what's working and what's not working, this data can also help our engineers and professionals revisit design standards because design standards then guide how streets are designed or retrofitted. Next slide, please. So when you get to the portal, these are just a few screenshots of what you can expect to see when you visit. It'll be at engage.calgary.ca/exploreyourstreet. You'll find a little background on the project outlining how your input is used. Very simple and easy to understand yes/no questions. So this is pretty easy for all students of all ages to use. You'll have an opportunity to fill in a what else is missing section at the bottom. So potentially having an older student or parent volunteer might help those younger students fill in the open-ended questions, just in case there's something that you'd like to see improved on your street or feedback that you'd like to provide that's not captured in the questions. The survey is anonymous and it can be taken at any time of year. And we actually encourage folks to take the survey multiple times in varying seasons and at different times of day or week. So we'll be able to use this data to map out patterns that can highlight the need for various toolkits or interventions that may need to be applied. So for example, if we note or we're learning that there's concerns related to crossing the street in a certain area, this might mean that an intersection safety evaluation may need to be conducted by our roads traffic safety team to evaluate how can we make this intersection safer to cross or feel safer to cross. If we're getting lots of reports of adults biking on the sidewalk, this might highlight a need. So you may or may not know that according to the City of Calgary bylaw, anyone over the age of 14 is actually not supposed to ride on the sidewalk. They're supposed to ride on the road. But we know that people ride where they feel most comfortable. So if we're seeing a lot of older teenagers or adults riding on the sidewalk, they likely don't feel comfortable riding on the road. And if they don't feel comfortable riding on the road, and we see a consistent pattern of this, that could highlight a need for more or better bike infrastructure in the area. Next slide, please. It's really easy to take the survey. You can take the survey directly from a smartphone or a tablet, but we also do provide a printable version on the landing page. So you can print it out, fill it out by hand on those handy dandy clipboards or pieces of cardboard, and then you can actually scan it back to us so that we can record the answers. We do encourage folks to take photos because this helps us get a better understanding of the area. And there is an option to add additional, so photos or PDFs or additional information can be uploaded right there on out there on the portal. And then we do encourage other items sort of that's on the slide there that can spark fun and sort of more engaging ways to diversify your outdoor learning experience. And on the next slide, please, Vanessa, my final slide, some additional resources. So to take citizen science in the outdoor classroom even further, as Vanessa said earlier, take the learning further through different types of projects or using it as a way to sort of springboard into some deeper project-based learning. We do have what's called the Neighborhood Streets projects. So the survey acknowledges sort of a new value set that's been introduced through our Neighborhood Streets prototype policy. You can learn all about that new policy if you go to that website there. But specifically, feelings of comfort and perceived safety and fun, perceived safety and fun are values that belong in designing and operating Calgary's transportation system. So it's not just about, does it functionally work from an engineering perspective? Does it feel safe? And is it fun? Those are important pieces of input when it comes to designing our transportation system. So to act on these new values, we need new data. The Explore Your Streets survey is sort of the proposed tool. It's still sort of in the pilot phase, so it's not perfect or totally formalized, set in stone. But the Explore Your Streets survey is sort of the proposed tool to gather some of these new forms of data. So this pilot will build on and go beyond the Explore Your Streets survey. City staff, so part of the Neighborhood Streets projects include city staff who partner with schools, working with students on mobility improvements in their community. We do offer customized programming based on the school and projects that may be happening in the area. And then this collaboration also helps shape community mobility projects. It gives students a sense that communities evolve over time and that students can actually influence positive change around them. So if you'd like to know more about sort of the Neighborhood Streets project, you can check out that website there or connect with me sort of offline. We do also have Everactive Schools. So Everactive Schools are our implementation partner for the Active and Safe Routes to School program. And it's they have so many great free resources that tie into exploring and understanding the place around you, whether it's home, your personal neighborhood, or the neighborhood of your school. Their website has tons of free resources on active school travel and healthy school initiatives that are really easy for teachers to incorporate into existing activities or curriculum projects. And then I also encourage everybody to just sort of get engaged at the City of Calgary Engage portal. So there's a number of opportunities constantly changing to provide feedback on current projects and programs. So we do encourage all citizens, no matter what your age, to provide input on issues that are important to you. So for example, I just checked before this session started, open for input on the Engage portal right now. There's the 11th Street Southwest Underpass Functional Planning Study, which sounds super jargony, but it's an opportunity if you live in that area. It's kind of working and trying to do a study around what's happening for an potential 11th Street underpass, working with CP Rail. So the way people are moving around that area, it's important for us to learn about that before any change gets made. There's also open for input on the Bowness Flood Barrier Project and one called Tomorrow's Chinatown. So the engagement is often open for generally 3 weeks-ish, depending on the project, sometimes longer. So we do encourage you to continue to go back there and see if there happens to be something open for input. Maybe it's in your neighborhood or around your school. Participating in the Explore Your Streets survey and any of these other citizen science opportunities connects to various math, science, and social studies KSAs, both for Div 1 and Div 2. So for example, the K-9 mathematics section, you're probably all way more familiar with it than I am. But it does talk about how children make sense of their environment through observations and interactions at home and in the community. So activities like going out and exploring your street can contribute to the development of number and spatial sense in students. And so these opportunities also support lots of science programs, engaging students in a process of inquiry and problem solving, where they can develop knowledge and skills. They encourage activities that, sort of nurture that sense of wonderment and confidence and investigating their surroundings, and building a foundation of experience and understanding for which later learning can, of course, be based. And so while the data for the Explore Your Street survey, it's not necessarily going to scientists, it still is a form of citizen science and civic participation. We can get into the whole social studies side of that as well. Being an involved citizen builds on students' natural curiosity to foster a connection to place, and it can also lead to an increase in environmental stewardship and responsible citizenship. So while my portion of this presentation is more focused on the built environment, it does connect directly to nature in the city, as they both tie into that sense of place and how it feels to be in and move within our school or neighborhood spaces. So that's the end of my section. If you have any questions, I am happy to answer them. Or if not, I think I'll be passing it back to Vanessa.
Yeah, that's great, Jackie. I've been monitoring the chat and I don't have anything for you right now, but if you could just keep an eye in there, if folks have anything to post for you. One question though, Jacqueline, will the Explore Your Streets Citizen Science Project be part of Mayor's Expo this year, so that if teachers want some support with it, will they be able to join? Sorry to put you on the spot there.
As far as I know, yes, we generally do participate in the Mayor's Expo. And this is sort of our main piece that we like to highlight and feature. So as far as I know, we will be a part of that. But again, if we want to talk afterwards, happy to do so.
Okay, and I'll just highlight, I did mention it earlier in the chat, iNaturalist will also be participating as part of the 100% virtual Mayor's Environment Expo with our Parks Department. So if you would like support with your students on either iNaturalist or on Explore Your Streets, you can register for those free sessions. Registration will go live, of course, in April, as always. One question that's come into the chat here: are there opportunities for students to interact with actual scientists that are using the collected data? I can see our students asking, what did the scientists find out from our data? Vanessa, you're on mute. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. I was like, no, not again. I promised myself that wouldn't happen. Specifically with Calgary Captured, yes, I would say yes. I was able to have a meeting with the Mistaki Institute as well as the City of Calgary, and they were able to give me lots of great information. Mistaki Institute with Calgary Captured does do in-class presentations, and there are scientists. They are a research-based organization, and they do visit classrooms virtually or in person. So if you want to have a scientist coming into your classroom, especially a local scientist that knows the city and can talk about local issues, I would highly recommend getting in contact with the Calgary Captured organization.
And I would say on our side too, even though they're not scientists, if kids want to talk to an engineer or a planner, we definitely have all kinds of interested people who use this information, who make decisions on how streets are designed, on how neighborhoods are designed, that could come in potentially and talk to students as well. So that's always a possibility on our end as well.
Wonderful. And Vanessa, over to you just to wrap up this presentation. And I've got a couple things to say at the end too.
Yeah, no worries. So thank you, Jacqueline, for all of that. Having natural areas and exposing students to the benefits of these urban nature sanctuaries is important because they increase the biodiversity of our city. And biodiversity can be defined as, the enormous variety of life on Earth, from the variety of species to the variety of genetics to the variety of ecoregions. It alleviates the pressures of human impacts on the plants and animals that live in our city and in our Earth. They mitigate the effects of pollutions, as well as benefits people's psychological well-being and cognitive function. Bringing nature into our classroom and lesson plans is important and beneficial because it provides cross-curricular opportunities. Specifically, if you're looking at creating a project-based lesson plan, using nature as a backdrop and a foundation is an excellent idea. It brings curriculum to life, having students feel and touch a tree in the grade 6 trees and forest curriculum, or see all the small crawling and flying insects that are found in Calgary is very impactful. Even having outdoor sit spots where they're observing nature and writing poetry brings life to school. It builds a sense of place and connection to the land, helps children's cognitive function focus. So kids with ADHD really benefit from these outdoor nature connections. And very importantly, it also helps to increase resilience. Studies have shown that having a green space to retreat to or holding a class outdoors once a week can improve the daily cortisol patterns of students and teachers, reflecting in less stress and better adaptation to stress in comparison to kids and teachers without only indoor instruction. And last but not least, these nature connections, these outdoor lessons help promote social connections within your class, improves creativity as well as inquiry. So on behalf of myself and the City of Calgary, thank you guys so much for listening. We are here. Our contact information is available to you, and as well as the resource PDF. And I will hand it back over to Lindsay now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jacqueline and Vanessa. I would invite anyone to post any questions into the chat that you might have, and we won't get kicked out because we're on our own Zoom platform, but we can address those afterwards. I just wanted to close out by sharing with you that ACE has done an amazing job to help teachers to see some of the curriculum connections between environmental actions and sustainability, and they've worked really hard to develop a bunch of links that are available on their website. So just showing up here on the screen is an example of what those links might look like. So we've got a grade 2 science curriculum, and it's got links to place and nature, the Indigenous perspective, climate change, and then also we've worked with ACE to bring in the City of Calgary environmental and climate strategies. And this is another example with the grade 5 science curriculum. So just to show you what that looks like on the ACE website is you can go and you can see each grade is broken down between links in social and science. The high school links are coming shortly. We also just want to bring your attention to a brand new partnership this year between the City of Calgary, we're helping out, but between ACE and EcoSchools Canada. So it's now available to all Calgary schools, regardless of the type of school or the school board that you're with. And it's an environmental certification program for schools that features a list of 40 different eco actions that you can take, many of which most of you are probably already taking. But they do support learning and action around nature and biodiversity in the program. So some of the ones specifically that do support nature and biodiversity are listed here on the left-hand side. Each eco action comes with its own action guide, which makes it really easy for teachers to get started. And schools earn points by completing actions of their choice, working towards bronze, silver, gold, or platinum. Right now, we've got 22 schools participating in eco schools here in Calgary, and we hope to see many, many more. So the Alberta Council for Environmental Education has also worked with our local environmental education community with groups like CPAWS to identify local resources to support these actions. So feel free to visit their website to learn more about EcoSchools in Canada, EcoSchools Canada in Calgary. And a quick reminder, it's not too late to join our other sessions that are part of this collaboration. We've got some more coming, one more today and 2 tomorrow morning. So check those out. Leah, I think you're going to post a link in the chat to the Symposium site for those sessions. And I would, on behalf of ACE, like to extend a word of thanks to all of ACE's funders who generously support their work to help teachers to infuse more environmental education into their everyday teachings. So we do hope you've enjoyed this session, and feel free to follow up with any of us here today. We've provided our email addresses into in the PowerPoint here. Leah's going to post one more time that link to the ACE website where you can register. We'll give you all the resources we talked about today, our PowerPoint, so you can link through to easy things. And there's also an optional opportunity to give us some feedback so that we can continue to improve workshops at Teachers Convention to better suit your needs. So yeah, thank you again for joining us. Thank you to the other presenters. And I'll just pop over to the chat to see if there's any questions coming in right now. There's a lot of thank yous that have come in from everyone. Oh, that's so wonderful. Okay, well, I'll ask a question then really quickly. Vanessa, if you wouldn't mind coming back on, is CPAWS offering some support for your field trips and that sort of thing virtually right now if you can't be out at schools?
Yeah, oh my gosh, my hair's crazy. I was not ready for camera. Yeah, we do virtual programs, and not for in-school. We do like, you know, schoolyard field trips and stuff like that, but we do have virtual options available for like a ton of things, including our citizen science program, which we have specific for grades 3, 6, 7, and 9, highlighting the science units and social studies units within all of those. So like the small flying and crawling animals. We do trees and forests, as well as interactions in ecosystems and biodiversity.
That's really wonderful. Will you also be participating in the virtual Mayor's Expo this year?
Yeah, I will. Can't keep me away. Round 2, Mayor's Expo, virtual format. Super excited.
And the great thing about that is our technical limit is actually 10,000 participants. So we could have like the whole city coming.
That's like frightening. That is not, that is frightening to hear, but super exciting at the same time.
Wonderful. I don't see any more questions, and we're just 1 minute before the end. So Leah, I'll just invite you to stop the recording in case some folks don't want to ask a question during the recording. Can you just let me know when that's done?